Hello! And welcome to episode 44 of Modern Media Review, the podcast that likes to kick over the statues, but in a figurative, sort of intellectual way. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Goligly.
And when I said that about the statue, Sean, I mean really figurative. I've never gone out for the afternoon with ropes and pulleys in case I come across one I want to pull down. Even though, lockdown's going on so long, there's a kind of need to find new hobbies, isn't there?
Well, perhaps, Robin, in future we'll go out with ropes and pulleys just to be ready for this sort of spontaneous culling of statues. But the point I was thinking about this podcast was it's been going on a lot longer than I thought it would, to be honest. A bit like punk.
Well, how long did you think it was going to go on?
I thought about 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I must admit, because at the beginning they just said if you wash your hands really thoroughly, things will be okay. I was thinking a few weeks myself, but no.
Well, exactly, and I always thought that as long as you washed your hands and polished your shoes, you'd always do well in life.
Although I haven't polished my shoes recently.
Okay, so this is our, I think, 5th COVID-19 podcast, Robin.
Yes.
And we've been in lockdown so long that I'm really starting to notice people's hair and their fashion sense. And because we've probably done every single thing about COVID that we could do, this is the last refuge.
Well, I did notice that Emily Maitlis, who's been very good on Newsnight, so good she's been censured and kicked off for an evening, her hair's getting longer and longer, so not everyone's got access to a barber.
No, they haven't.
What about the Prime Minister, Dominic Cummings?
Well, exactly, not least the Prime Minister of this country, Dominic Cummings. Now, Dom hasn't done himself too many favours through this whole journey, has he? His fashion sense is possibly his greatest crime, because he's a geek who's decided it's cool to rock this sort of like 9-year-old skater boy look. And don't get me wrong, that's fine, Dominic, but when you're pushing 50, stop shopping in G-Star Raw. You're too old.
I don't even know what G-Star Raw is.
Have you not done that?
No, I don't. Is it one of those dark shops with loud music?
Yes, it is one of those dark
shops.
shops.
I never go into them.
I don't either. And there comes it's a bit like Hollister when they spray the atmosphere with aftershave, and you just realise that I'm the wrong person for this. Isn't this interesting? Weren't we talking about this the other day, where Dominic said he predicted the pandemic?
Yes, because he did predict it because he altered his blog retrospectively.
Which is never good when you've got people picking up on you.
What you've got with Cummings is what I've liked. There's a lot of different phrases for euphemisms for lying, isn't there? But my favourite one, people say I misspoke and all that sort of thing, as if they tripped over a floorboard or something. But my favourite one ever was some crass US politician who said that there had been a pushback of veracity.
I like that.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
I do like that. So basically what you're saying is we stopped telling the truth.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I think that happened quite a while ago. Certain people stopped telling. Certainly public figures have totally stopped telling the truth. Anyway, can you get back to the point of the fashion?
Okay, the point is, so it's weird really, because COVID has shown this much more. So we've still got newsreaders wearing their suits and ties, which is a bit out of kilter with where we're going a bit more relaxed now, isn't it? Because
there's a lack of formality that they're not reflecting.
Yeah, well, it's almost like I was watching something on JFK's inauguration the other day, 1961. So I guess for younger listeners that would seem like ancient history.
It is.
But they were wearing top hats then.
Well, what's so surprising about that? I still wear a top hat every day, even when I go to bed. I don't understand, right? Why? I'm with the newsreaders here. I don't understand why not having a job to go to, or any money, or any food, should be any excuse not to dress appropriately.
Robin, I can't disagree with you, but I've had a massive problem in lockdown where I've sort of degenerated into basically so tempted to lie about in my grundies, which to you would be pants. Because all I've thought is, who's actually going to see it?
It's not that. I just feel rubbish when I'm not fresh and, top hatted up. Actually, I have got a problem with all this, because do you remember a while ago, last year, when we reviewed the laughable government Brexit advice website?
Oh, absolutely.
It seems like years ago, and it's totally useless now, because the stuff you had to do, it was like registering your ferret to take it abroad and saving up enough money to visit Italy. None of that matters anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And we thought it was all vague and nonsensical at the time, but it's like a comprehensive Haynes manual compared to the COVID advice, isn't it?
It is.
It's more like a misprinted flat pack furniture instruction sheet with the missing Allen keys and screws. And anyway, the point was we were talking about stockpiling, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Because everyone was worried Brexit would be like an apocalyptic event.
Absolutely.
With a grim dystopia at the end. But at the time I said I'd stockpile slippers, and I didn't. And last week...
But you said you were going to do that.
But it was just a joke. And then last week I stupidly threw out my slippers because they were sort of falling apart. And I was thinking, well, it's summer now, I won't be needing these. I can walk around barefoot. And now, look where I am. No slippers, freezing cold, got to wear shoes. I'm wearing shoes in the house and a top hat. So I don't really care about fashion. I just need slippers. I'd even have those stupid big fluffy football kinds. Anything.
Well, I'm very pleased that you're wearing your top hat, because, as you always like to do, Robin, Royal Ascot is a big social thing for you every year, and you're already good to go.
Yeah, I'll wear it in front of the television.
And Robin, I guess one of the aspects of COVID is this new thing where everyone thinks that we won't need offices in the city anymore. And if we don't need offices in the city anymore, then your top hat is going to be a bit redundant.
It is. And my bowler.
Yes.
My correspondent shoes that I'm wearing in place of slippers. The thing about the offices is they'll probably all be turned into Weatherspoons, won't they? With protective plastic screens and Brexit literature on the table to keep you occupied when you can't chat to people at the bar.
Which I'm looking forward to, obviously. But I'll tell you what, before we go into fashion for fridges, which I've also found quite fascinating, should we not...
What do you mean, fashion for fridges?
Fashion for fridges. When you watch people opening their fridges, it's fascinating to see what they've got in there.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never looked at anyone's fridge.
You must do.
Not on a video call, no.
Do you not sneakily, when you go to someone's house, look in their fridge?
No. I don't do anything sneakily when I go to someone's house.
I must admit I do.
That sounds very creepy and sinister, Sean.
All right then, I'm just going to give you this before we go to the plugging. Jack Whitehall, who I sort of like and don't like. I don't know about you.
I don't like him. I just don't like him.
Okay.
I'm just sort of about it.
He was sort of like video casting out of his house, and he opened up his fridge, and it was like one of those fridges that goes from your roof to the floor. It wasn't sort of like your bit of, when you sort of like put your petit pois in the top bit, and then you've got maybe some stuff down below. His was wall to wall with champagne, gin, vodka, and all the rest of it.
That's just to kill the pain, Sean, of being an unfunny comedian.
Brackets unfunny comedian.
He just sits at home at night crying over his failed Brits appearances and bad script writers and downing bottles of vodka and gin.
Which makes me feel fairly happy in our COVID-19 lockdown, Robin.
Well, I suppose it's a slight silver lining. Anyway, that's enough about fridges and fashion. Let's just stop for a minute. Well, not stop. Just remind people who might be listening where they can hear us. We're obviously on our website, modernmediareview.com. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, other podcast apps, apparently, and YouTube as well. And you can subscribe on any of these. So please do if you like it. And we're also on Twitter if you want to send us any messages.
Even abusive. I don't mind abusive messages.
Do you not? Okay, well I might do a few of them myself.
Always makes me feel wanted, Robin.
So anyway, hope you're enjoying it. And I think we want to get off the fashion thing, don't we? And there's been some serious coronavirus news recently in the media. And there's been a bit of a clash, I would say.
Yes?
Protest versus beach going. I'm finding it strange that the so-called government ministers...
What do you mean so-called government ministers?
Well, it's the government that's so-called. Obviously, they are ministers. They've been on the telly, haven't they, insisting people shouldn't go on the Black Lives Matter marches. I mean, how is that? Where is the logic in that, eh? Matt Hancock kept coming on saying, please, like that, please don't gather in groups of more than 6 people. 2 weeks ago, no one said, you white, flabby, pasty people in your swimming trunks, don't crowd onto the beaches and tombstone off 100-metre rocks. Don't do anything that requires emergency helicopters to be scrambled when they could be like airlifting coma victims from a care home. Nobody said, come on, thousands of people don't squeeze up against each other at ice cream stalls in Margate. They didn't get kettled, did they? Well, for not being 2 metres apart.
They didn't get kettled, and it's quite funny. I'm not sure how it's worked with you and your mates, but there's been some pushback on this Black Lives Matter, because they said, I can't believe that people are gathering in their thousands in London to protest about somebody who basically had a foot put on his neck and was killed, and yet it's okay to go down to Southend, Brighton, and eat ice cream and be cheek bejowl with the rest of the country.
Well, I think it's all part of their plan, isn't it? Which they didn't have a proper plan, in public at least. The flabby, pasty, white beachgoers all pressing up against each other.
Sounds a bit like
Black
me,
Lives
actually.
Matters. Yeah, Black Lives Matters protesters sort of hemmed in and kettled against each other. Getting all these people in a crowd and having so much fun that they don't realise they are the herd developing the immunity. It's a beautiful plan.
Well, in fact, then, if they were the herd developing the immunity, they should be given a Victoria Cross for bravery.
Yeah, but they're not going to tell them. Anyway, you know this sort of, you know how this whole thing means you've got this time to do sort of unpleasant things that you haven't got round to for years.
Yes.
But you know you have to do,
yes.
Like hoovering.
Yep.
Or listening to a new album, I don't know, by The Strokes.
Really?
Once to make sure they're still not up to much. Trying to claim universal credit, those sort of pastimes. Well, I woke up at 10 on Sunday because that's my new regime, and I did something I've never done. I listened to Nigel Farage on LBC.
I thought he was your favourite, Robin.
No, it was totally by accident. I just switched on the radio and there he was, and what a show! What a show! I mean, it was beyond all expectations. I mean, maybe it's always this bad, but he was talking about the Black Lives Matter protests and saying that they represented a complete breakdown of law and order.
Ooh.
Sorry, a complete breakdown. And then he's going, guess what? It's all going to happen again today. It's all planned. Then he went on to say that it was no surprise and it was the 76th anniversary of D-Day. I did observe that 76th anniversary. It's an important one, isn't it?
I did as well, yeah.
Cenotaph desecrated, Churchill statue. The bloke's completely mental. Then he was saying that it was mob rule.
Did you mishear that?
Well, he wants knob rule, doesn't he? Or possibly knob rule with a K. The worst things he'd ever seen, he said, in the streets of London. I mean,
really?
Where was he in the Brixton riots?
Oh, poll tax.
Probably not in Brixton. Poll tax. Mind you, I'm ashamed to say that I missed a poll tax when I was at the racecourse that day.
Mixing with
the knobs, actually.
What, is that with a K or an M?
With an N. But anyway, it was the worst thing he'd ever seen because nearly 24 officers were injured. And then he went, some of them quite seriously. So obviously some of them just stubbed their toe or something. But the worst bit about the Farage show, and I'll stop going on about him in a minute, he started ranting about how Black Lives Matter is actually the hard left and talking about the redistribution of wealth. I mean, shocking, isn't it?
Well, I think he's probably taken it a bit further than what they were doing on the Black Lives Matter march, wasn't it? I don't think they were saying redistribution of wealth, were they?
No, he says they want to put the economy in the hands of black groups. And I thought maybe something like Earth, Wind and Fire or Jay-Z and Beyonce. That would be good if the economy was in their hands. And then he said it's an anti-police organisation. Marxism with anarchy thrown in. Sounds good, doesn't it? And then his best bit was that he culminated by saying, if that's the word, by saying the whole thing's based on a false premise because according to him, there's not enough black people dying in police custody. He said there are more white people doing it, so it doesn't count.
Well, I think for him, when he's building up to this, because he's foreplayed himself with his culmination, I think this is his ecstasy, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. I mean, who listens to this stuff? I mean, he's living in this Daily Mail fantasy world where...
You listen to it.
They think if you look out the front door, it's like outtakes from The Purge spliced onto a Mad Max sort of backdrop. I mean, this guy's never been anywhere near any sort of front line, has he? Except maybe down at the rugby club, I suppose.
Rugger?
Yeah, queuing up to stick toothbrushes up a chap's bottom.
I think it's a thumb, isn't it? Don't you do the thumb?
Is it? Toothbrushes, mate. But LBC did have a great guy actually on the front line.
Oh, you were telling me about this fella.
Matthew someone, right? He was on these protests all weekend and he was getting hemmed in and kettled. he kept ringing up to say things were getting a bit testy. I've just seen someone throwing a firework. He must be bloody knackered. What a job.
Well, the other thing is, everybody's doing their sort of like 80% furloughing. So if he actually got taken back by LBC, he's probably on about 20% salary, Robin, for a 48-hour job.
He was still there at like 10 o'clock on Sunday night, running up.
No way.
This was 2 hours after I saw somebody nearby here dropped off with the banners. Obviously, all the peaceful protesters had kind of gone home already. This geezer is still running up and down Whitehall with the hardcore of anarchist stroke Marxists. I was just thinking maybe he'll change sides and, father a child by one of the protesters. Now, it's undercover coppers that do that, isn't it? Not journalists. Anyway, what a guy. Should we say anything about the statue?
Ooh, tough, Robin.
I don't think so. I mean, everyone else has totally hijacked the debate, haven't they, by focusing on it. And I'm really sorry, but the day I'm the least bit bothered about a bunch of people throwing a statue of a slaver into Bristol Harbour is the day I give up any shred of debatable humanity I might have had.
Well, the point was that I'd never heard of Edward Colston. Had you?
I've been at the Colston Hall in Bristol.
Okay.
But I had no idea who it was named after. I'm with the tweet from Moose Allen, who's a very good cartoonist and sometime comedian on Twitter, who said, I don't understand why people are complaining about the statue being pushed into the harbour. It's still there if you want to jump in and have a look at it. That's enough for me, really.
Well, all I thought about Edward Colston is he brackets philanthropist or brackets slaver?
Well, I think they originally put it in that order, but now it's been turned on its head. Now it's bracket slaver and
which is never a good look, is
it? Part-time philanthropist. I'm more interested in these new proposals in the US to defund the police. That's very interesting. It reminds me of when I went to see Bo Diddley in, it must have been in the early 80s in London. And I think for some reason, it must have been at the time of some riots in the early 80s, and he said, I hear there's a curfew, and he said, you know what I think? I think we should have a curfew every night, all the time. All the police should be off the streets by 9 o'clock. Spot on, Bo was there. A great man.
It's not a bad shout.
But anyway, evening behaviour, obviously we're not curfewed, but I've noticed on Zoom that people have been having complete plonkers, not people have been sharing, in inverted commas, their barbecues on Zoom while they sort of poke a fork at the screen. I don't even know how that works, what the other person could be seeing. Anyway, this friend of mine in Paisley WhatsApped me a picture he'd taken of Buckfast barbecue sauce. Can you believe? I couldn't believe it. Wreck the Hoose juice, as it's known.
Well, it is a bit of a theme with us, Robin, that we do always come back to a bit of Buckfast. But this takes it beyond anything I think we've ever done before, doesn't it?
Well, they've launched it in conjunction with Rendell's Quality Butchers, which sounds completely sinister. Like, why do they need to say quality? And who's ever heard of them? I read a review of it saying Buckfast's unique mix of caffeine and alcohol makes it an effective way to perk yourself up for a night out. Well, that's one way of putting it, isn't it? Apparently this butcher, based in Stirling and Alva, which I've never heard of, already have a range of Buckfast infused meat infused with Buckfast, sausages, haggis, pies, bacon. Right. You don't hear much about Stirling and Alva, but there must be a news blackout because they've got these like 24-hour Buckfast haggis-fueled fighting and stabbing festivals. If Priti Patel wants to see totally unacceptable public behaviour, she is starting at the wrong place. And then I did send you this pic, didn't I?
I did. It's amazing.
From Rendell Quality Butcher website. It's a presentation platter of 12 sausages and half a bottle of Bucky.
Well, they've got 18 sausages on the platter and a bottle of Bucky to go with it.
Yeah, headbangers, I'm going to call them.
Now, I think that Bucky and Rendell's Butchers, to be fair to them, are way ahead of the game here because they're basically doing product placement, Robin. So, you know how you get your summer blockbuster films with Tom Cruise and all the rest of it. So normally it'll be like Coke or whatever drinks that normally go with it. But this could be a new departure. It could be that Bucky, Tom Cruise, whilst he's hanging off the back of a plane, could be swigging a bit of Bucky and doing a sausage sandwich.
Well, I think it'd be perfect for Paris Hilton's cooking videos. I'm worried about Paris because we haven't heard much from her. I wonder how she's handling things. But anyway, it's only $4.99. This
which is incredible value.
Yeah, well, it's not as big a bottle as the wine. And the wine's 15% alcohol, plus the caffeine and other stuff. The ingredients for the BBQ sauce, Buckfast, only comes after tomato paste and water, so there can't be that much in it. But it's definitely, I'm going to get some and sluice it over my tofu and see what happens.
Well, it's a bit like when you used to go for a haircut at your local barber, and he said, "Need something for the weekend?" winking at you. Well, this is a whole new take on it, isn't it? You know, need something for the weekend, have your sausages and Bucky.
Yes. And it comes with a Stanley knife, a tap.
Ooh, that's so bad.
Anyway, the Buckfast barbecue sauce, ideal for tucking into when you're watching reruns of World Cup matches, isn't it? Which they've been showing on the television.
Ad nauseum, to be honest. But I
haven't watched any of them.
But there was one that I did watch, Robin, and I don't know why I did. Not for nostalgia, because I can't remember it because I was too young, believe it or not. Which was ITV's complete rerun of England's '66 World Cup final against Germany.
I'm amazed they bothered to rerun that, Sean, because don't all English people rerun that in their head every day of every week of every year?
I think that is quite possible. But it was interesting because we were talking about fashion earlier, and this was amazing because one of the most striking differences in football fashion from what I could see from all the footage from it was a complete lack of fat lads, really fat lads, in replica shirts.
Well, there's two things to say about that. One is that there weren't that many fat lads around in the 60s and 70s.
True.
For various reasons, I think.
Not enough money to buy food, I think.
Yes, and didn't they have rationing or something like that? 3-day week. You could eat for 4 days of the week, could you? And also, you only wore a football shirt. You might get your local or your favourite team's shirt, fair enough. You only wore it to play football.
Absolutely.
You didn't wear it socially.
No, certainly not. Who looks good in a tight nylon shirt? They had Glenn Hoddle on, who was the ex-England manager, and Glenn played an absolute blinder. Glenn was commentating on the game as if it was happening. But the weird thing was, Glenn was dressed.
Well, to many English people, in a very real sense, that game is still happening.
Yeah, possibly. But Glenn looked amazing. Well, I can't say amazing. It was amazing to me because he looked like a Costa del Sol retiree.
What was he wearing?
Well, it's only us British that can do this. We've managed to get all your expensive sports casual wear, and you never look as chic or as cool as the Spanish or the French seem to find so effortlessly.
So he was wearing, like, sandals with knee socks, yeah?
Well, we seem to be... Yeah, exactly. We seem to be quite happy, as a nation, to rock out or showcase, in the words of the Daily Mail, our sort of like man or woman at Sports Direct.
It's weird, isn't it? Because actually, you know, when you were saying about the football fans at the World Cup final,
yeah.
You know, in those days they wore suits and ties and hats.
Oh!
Top hats, probably, to go to the football, didn't they?
But the thing was, they were wearing... They looked like... It was like a scene out of Quadrophenia, where everyone was looking really sharp, whereas these guys certainly weren't. But the weird thing is that they then pulled Greg Dyke into it.
What's he got to do with it?
Well, because he was head of the FA and all sorts of contract negotiations for football. But the interesting point he did say was that he rocked up to Wembley on semi-final day when England played Portugal, and he bought 6 tickets for the match on the day. So this is a big difference from pre-lockdown, where if Madonna, the Eagles or Cream announce a concert and there's
Cream?
Yeah, well, you know, 500,000 tickets available and they all get sold out in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's digital ticket touting, mate. It's not like the old days when you sent a postal order in for 4 You did. You sent a postal order for 4 Hawkwind tickets and you always got them. Plus, we've been through this before. Too many people want to go to these things. When we were young, only one generation wanted to see Hotland. Now you get granddads, fathers, sons and grandsons all going to the same concert.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the one thing that was so funny about this 1966 Cup... carry on.
Can I just say that I'm really sorry I missed it, because I feel I haven't heard enough about England winning the World Cup in 1966.
Well, the important thing is, Robin, that England have won it so many times since that this was...
Yeah, but that's the most important one, really, isn't it? Because it's the actual real one, and I feel that it hasn't been... I don't feel it's been drummed in enough to me.
As a man from Paisley. But the one thing about this 66 rerun was not just that Glenn Hoddle was talking about it as if it was happening, is that he kept doing spoiler alerts for it. Now, I'd imagine that most people would have had a fair idea how this was going to go, don't you think?
Well, yeah, most would, yeah.
So it was a bit like the equivalent of having a spoiler alert before they do reruns of The World at War. For all new viewers, Germany lose World War II.
Yes, Germany lose. Excellent. This reminds me of... I'm going to start a new segment in this podcast while we're under lockdown. COVID media announcement of the fortnight. Because there was a brilliant announcement last week that UK trains are running at a record level of being on time. These are figures from the Office for Rail and Road. Showed that 98.3% of trains that ran in April arrived within 5 minutes of the correct time.
Which I like, Robin, because it's a bit like they used to say about Mussolini. Now, he may have got a lot of things wrong, but at least the trains ran on time.
But never mind that, this is brilliant. I mean, let's face it, they just keep going like this with one train an hour and 10% of the normal number of passengers. We'll end up actually being better than Germany.
Wow.
At last, we're back where we belong.
And saying that, we are back where we belong. And I think we can't go any further than that, can we? We can't end on a bigger high.
No, we can't. I think we might have arrived at our destination within 5 minutes of the intended time. So we'll just say on that note, once my phone stops.
I like that.
We'll just say on that note, thanks everyone for listening. Hope we're making lockdown slightly more amusing, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
In my top hat, Robin.
In our top hats. See you then. Goodbye.